Hello Nitroners and welcome back to VFX with Natron. Today we're going to be looking at... Oh, 1 second, I just realised my light's not on. Today we're going to be looking at doing some character animation. It turns out I had a wee bit of a problem. They didn't update this video service and it's broken currently, so it might be a wee bit wonky today. That's one part of the reason it's not set up as well as I would like. Anyway, last time, as you might remember, the goal of the past 3 prior episodes, and this being the 4th, was to rig a character. And the character that we were using is this one, which is a synfig character. And the goal of this is going to, obviously, we're going to be doing something similar. We're going to make this character walk sort of like this, which I showed on the 4th of July. Now, obviously, we're not going to be, well, I don't plan to put 4th of July text up there, or I don't plan to put the explosions or whatever, but the goal is today to make it so we have a character that can walk, well, in theory, could walk across the screen if we get it all done in time. Hopefully it will. So, with nothing further to ado, let's hop over into Natron. Alright. So, here we are. Oh, wait a minute. I'm not in the right version. I had planned on doing more stuff. Alright, so this is where we left off last time. And I apologize. I'm way behind on everything. I tried my remote control for the application. It's not working. So, this is going to be a wee bit off. Anyway, so here we are. This is where we left off on the last episode, or just what we started off. We started rigging, and we got into making a master control node for controlling the bits and pieces of the character, like its elbows, his elbow here, and his bending his torso. If we wanted to bend his torso in ridiculous directions or whatever. Anyhow, but as we said, is that when there's an error here, that's just it's not really an actual error. If you get that on yours, just ignore it. It is just telling you that there's an AND error, which means it's an order number. That happens with PNG sequences a lot of times. It's weird. It's irrelevant. See, it just disappeared. Anyway, just ignore it. You can hit Alt-P to get rid of that problem. Anyhow, that's where we left off on the last episode. So obviously I gave you enough information that we should be able to, you should have been able to continue rigging and rig up all the other bits and pieces and end up with something that I provided in the link today. You can download yourself, which is the final version of this character. I provided the link, which will wind up with this annotated version with all these notes and bits and pieces describing pretty much everything that we've gone over up until this point, but with like little handy dandy text notes and backdrops and whatnot up to this point. And it includes, it tells you what everything does, and it has a fully functional character, the character controls all set up, along with some handy dandy extra what we'll call assist nodes over here, and we're going to be using these assist nodes, and I will because we haven't dealt with this up to this point. I did point out a couple of them last time, but this time I figure we'll bring them up and talk about them a little bit more. So and this is also not quite the same. This was actually my final character that I actually rigged and I got it all set up for you guys. Alright, so let's talk about the assist nodes. You can read more if you want to read more about them. It talks about them down here, but basically there's these two over here on the right. If we unhide them, these two are the floors, and we set those up last time. And what the floors are basically They are the point at which the foot, both feet, the feet. Oh, there's the foot. Yes, we're playing footsie. No, we're they are the 2 points where the 2 feet touch the floor. Basically, they're the 0 points for those. All right, and they're there for a reference because we're going to be moving them back and forth, twisting them around, and making it look like this character is going to walk. So we need something to give us a guide for where the floor is, so that when the heel touches or the toe touches or something, and we're moving it around, because the foot's going to move up and down. We're going to lose track of that. So we have these for giving us guides there. All right, so we'll disable those for the moment and pull up these other two, which are these are what are called stride controls or stride guides, and they're going to vary based off of whatever you're trying to do. Strides are basically typically in 3D, which I've done 3D animation for years. When you're dealing with 3D animation, there's only one type of stride length. The stride is the distance between the tip of the toe and the other tip of the toe, or the heel of the toe to the heel of the other, heel of the toe, heel of the foot to the other heel of the foot. And you only need the one because it's twice whatever the heel distance is. All right, that's the stride. So you get your heel to toe or heel to heel, and then heel from the other foot to the other foot. And if it's in 3D, it's basically the same. The problem with 2D, or at least with puppet-based 2D, when we have a character that's slightly offset, is that we don't have an even thing. It isn't going to be the same amount because one foot is further back because he's slightly angled. So we need actually 2 bits to derive this stride length, and that's what these 2 bits are going to be here. And we'll get to that in a little bit. All right. So then the last thing we have is this thing called Onion S, which is an onion skin node all made a while back, and it's part. And you'll notice that as soon as we enable the onion skin, it sort of tinted the character a little bit. And if we were to actually move things through, when we start moving through time, this will allow us to see behind us in time and forward in time, so that we have a better view of exactly what our animation is doing, whether things are staying planted, whether things are arcing the way we want them to, etc., so on and so forth. But for right now, we're going to also disable that. All right. So the other thing we should point out is that this project is preset. When you load it, it is set up with the end frame here set to frame 25, because our walk cycle is going to be happening on a frame loop of 25 or 24 frames with a 12 frame passing, or each foot basically gets 12 frames. You're going to move, it's going to do one full cycle in 24 frames. All right, so let's go back to our character control, make sure we have that selected, and let's start animating this. The first thing we want to do is pull up our feet or our ground planes, and we'll enable those so that we can see them, because the first thing we should do, well, let's actually start off with, we're at the right arm. We have that up, we have the right arm selected. What we're going to do mainly is rotate it, so we're going to just rotate this backwards. I feel like, you know what, I think we're going to rotate this, start with it forward. No, I'm going to start with this one backwards, I think, actually. I'll take it back. We're going to put this one backwards because it's going to be easier to judge our passing pose, because this arm, we want the other arm out. I think that's good position for it. This arm going backwards. Then we want to go to we want to be on the first frame. Make sure we go back to the first frame. We want keyframe, on frame 10. We're going to set a key. We got to do this quick, by the way, if we're going to get the whole thing animated. We're going to go to the left arm. We're going to take its rotation and we're going to rotate it in the opposite direction. So we're going to bring this up, and we're going to bring that up a little further. We'll say, we'll bring it up to 20. Frame 20, we're going to set a key here. And for this one, we're going to also set out a, key for the elbow. We're going to bring the elbow out approximately half of its length, because it doesn't move out. It's a sort of a secondary motion. It's going to go out about half as far as our is the actual arm movement is, so it just brings it out a little bit further. And then what we're going to do is, let me think. We also want to go back to the right arm, and we want to set a key for both of the elbow frames, because we're not bending the elbow, but we wanted to start off at frame 0. For the right leg, because the right arm is going backwards, that means that our right foot will be going forward. So what we want to do is we want to start off by moving the leg forward and sort of figure out how far forward, and then we want to pull the leg back. And for right now, I'm going to start scrolling our node graph up so I can see our merge node. This main merge node here is a merge node for the entire body. And A and A2 are our 2 legs. Right now, we are looking at the right leg. And because I don't want because they're both green and it makes it hard to see, I'm going to disconnect our rear leg for the moment. So I'm going to disconnect A. And that hides it. That way I can see this a little bit better. And I'm going to rotate the calf. We're going to just, for right now, we're going to rotate the calf until we get it back in an angle. I'm going to say we're going to start with it at 20. We're going to set a keyframe for that. And we're going to set a keyframe for all dimensions that the right translate. Because we're going to move this up. Ultimately, we are also going to rotate the foot. But first things first, we need to figure out, I don't know if that's enough. You know what? I want to reconnect that back up. So that was our A. I'm going to actually pull A4 out of the way, pull A down, connect A back in so I can see it. Because I'm actually going to pull that one back. I want to get the left leg moved back, sort of figure out what a general good space for these are going to be. I'm going to disconnect A2 for the moment so that I can see that leg. And I'm going to rotate that one in the opposite direction, sort of get it more or less. You know what? I think that looks too far. I want to keep it nice and casual. This is a casual walk, not a run. So we'll keep it about, yeah, 20... Oh, what the heck? We'll keep it at 24 right now. Which means we need to move this forward. Let's set a key for that. Let's set a key for rotate. Set a key for here. And we want to bring this forward until... Alright. Here's the thing. Let's reconnect our thing. By the way, because this was A2, you'll notice A2 is off here to the left. Just drag that back in. Now it's back to A5. We can see that creates a bit of a problem. All right, that was the, let me see, that's left leg. Wait a minute. I want to make sure I've got the right leg I'm thinking of. Boom, boom. That is the left leg. Right, that's the left leg. Right leg is the front one. All right, so we're gonna... Yeah, we're going to disconnect the left leg. This one's not going to be as important, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. We can... we'll leave it off to the side a little bit. We do want it touching the front. Okay, that means that it does need to... It's going to probably go back further now that I'm realizing it's connected up here. All right, so that means we need to raise the foot. So we need to raise this foot approximately the same amount in the same direction. We're going to take it up... You know what? I'm thinking... 30's looking good. So we're going to set a key for 30 for the foot rotation. Which means we need to push the Y value up so that this toe, because it's the blue, touches... It originally started off touching this blue line. We need to move the toe up, or the whole leg up until that's no longer touching the blue line. Or until it's, or take it back. We want it to touch the blue line. And we want it to barely touch it with the very edge of it. So it's looking like 13 is about where we want the push off to be. So that's where 13 is what our vertical movement's going to be for our foot. Which also means that our whole leg needs to go up a bit. or our whole body's going to need to go up, which means we need to move our pelvis, translate up. So we're going to put some keys, let's set some keys onto our waist translate. So let's move this up. Now, all right, here's a problem. One of the big problems that we face is we have a black background and these have black outlines to it. So I think before we go any further forward, I think one of the things I want to do is just move my viewer down a little bit, and I'm going to merge in here I'm going to put in a solid, just to have a solid background. This is only temporary. We're going to make this white, and then we're going to add a merge node to that, connect it into the onion skin so that we have a white background. That way we can see our actual foot and everything a little bit better, and we really can line up the outlines, and we can see how these are lining up and get it just a little bit more precise. All right, let's go back to our character animation, or to our character node, and let's see what we got here. If we move this up, what we want to do is find the point where this black line sort of stops being connected. All right, so this looks like, if we're going to have that at 20, I think what we want to do is move this forward one, because that's where it lines up. Then we want to bring this down until it touches that dot. That looks pretty seamless right there. So I'm going to call that, that's going to be 0.1. That is our first keyframe for the rear leg, our left leg. All right, let's scroll back up, go down, zoom in here, grab A2, reconnect it. And now we're going to move this leg around. We're going to disconnect the other leg. That is set up a body's position. All right, that's where our body is up in the air. It's been pushed up in the air. We want to now move this leg back until it lines up with this section. So this means that our character's foot we need to get to the right leg. So this is the right leg, remember. So we select the right leg, and we are going to raise its foot. So we want to raise the heel. We want to get the heel up. So we're going to get it up. It's going to go around the same point. We said it had the other 30. 30 should be about the same. That's a good point. This is going to be, again, this is the front leg. So this is going to be our ground plane is this red plane. So we want to, with that set, what we want to do is raise our heel until it's touching. Basically, we want the black line or the first non-transparent line, and that's key. That's what I did with the other foot. We did it it was a little hazy whether there was a line. We want it to look like there's a solid connection. If the outline isn't touching well enough, we always pick the first non-transparent line as being the point that it crosses. But here we can see the black line is pretty observable. I'm not worried about this sort of greenish bad masking. I consider that a poor mask job by whoever actually made this originally. We're not going to worry about it. It works fine. So here we go. We have that. It's touching. You can see the black line goes right across the top of it. So that's where our heel wants to be when it's touching for the plant. So now we need to do is rotate it and figure out where our leg needs to be bent back to get this touch this point here. So let's rotate this around. Let's see. Oops, that was the heel. Wrong one. I should set a key for that. Set a key on that. It's our calf, or yes, our calf is what we're going to be rotating back. We're going to keep rotating it until we see the end of it. All right, so that's a really long thing. I don't think we want it back that far. So, right, I think we're going to probably... We don't want to move it too far back. I want to keep it around... 30 is probably the most we want to rotate it. Otherwise, it's going to start looking like it's too far a walk, and it's going to look more like it's a run than it is a walk. So you don't want to push it too far. If you push it too far, you wind up. Plus, this is curving. If we look, this is starting to curve back here, which is not good. So we're gonna we may lessen that even more because we don't want it to be too far. So all right, so we want to pull the translate back a little bit forward and start aligning it. We're trying to align first this black line, the front of our leg, and then look at the rear end and say to ourselves, does that line up? And the answer is no, it's too far forward. And this is the waist is at the correct height, so we need to back it off a little bit further. So we're probably gonna, let's try taking it back 5 pixels or 5 units of rotation, excuse me, and then we'll back it off again until that approximately touches, and that seems to be about right. It's still too far, so let's pull this back a little bit more. I'm thinking that we may need to lower the body because this leg's not transitioning nicely, so we're gonna just lower the body until the leg transitions nicely into this. We'll keep it about 2. That's looking good. All right, let's see if we can adjust this rotation a little bit. Let's back this off because it's not transition. Actually, you know what? I don't mind that it's a little bit off there. I'd rather at this point, because there's going to be another green behind it, it's really not going to matter too much. So I think we'll keep it around 23, 24. Let's see. I think that right there, 23, is looking good. All right. Let's check our heel. It's planted all right. Let's check it. Let's relink our other leg and double check it. That's the A input. All right. That's what our current passing pose looks like. I think we can push our other leg back a little bit. So I'm going to disconnect the front leg and rework the back. I think it can be a little further. So we'll go over to the left leg and we'll back it up a little bit further to give us a slightly longer stride so that it moves a little further forward. We had it at 23. Let's try and match them so that they match forward and backwards. 23 looks pretty good. I can live with that. Let's we don't want, did you see this? If I move it too far forward, I just want to point this out. See how we just got some bits poking out the side there? I don't want that, so I'm going to pull it back one. I can live with that. That's not the greatest thing. This corner edge here, it doesn't look great. That's because they didn't, unlike this one, if we can disconnect this leg for the moment because it's an A and it's going to put the A back up in its default, so we can disconnect it. But you can see this isn't rounded very well. Again, because it's not rounded, it's not perfect. But this is a rear leg. It's honestly, it's not as noticeable as on the front leg. The front leg, when you get to the buttocks where it's round, you want it to be round on the butt. You don't want it to be pointy. The front of the pelvis area, it's not as noticeable. Plus, it's in the rear. So, all right. So we're going to connect them back up both together, and that is what our first pose looks like it's going to be for that. One other thing I think we might try and do, I think I want to rotate the, let's set a key on the pelvis. I'm just thinking here, I think I might want to try and rotate the waist just a smidge, maybe a degree or 2. This is actually going to lessen the, the transition over here. You can see it makes it actually look a little bit smoother over here. Maybe we can take this as much as, no, I wouldn't take it more than 3. That's going to raise the far hip a little bit, and it's going to it's also going to lower the other hip, which means that we can actually raise the front leg, which is our right leg. So let's go over to our right leg. I'm going to just raise this a smidge more. Maybe, I think that'll be fine right there. I can live with that. All right, so why did we do that? Well, when we actually walk, our hips get involved in the movement. Our entire body is involved with walking. If we weren't to involve the hip, it would look very static, like it's something moving up and down. We don't want that. So we want to get the hips a little bit of rotation in there. And the problem is that when our hips move forward, if it moves forward, what's going to happen is the body is actually the entire body is moved back. So we actually have to counter this with both our head and our torso. So we're going to put keys into... we're going to set a key on both the head and the neck. What we're going to do, we've rotated back 3 degrees, so I'm going to move this and counter this rotation because the head tends to stay in the same place. So we're going to try and keep the head in the same area. But the way we're going to go about it is we're going to move in the opposite direction. So this is moving 3 positive, so we're going to probably rotate this 2 negative with the torso and 1 negative with the head, all right, so that it creates sort of a counter arc. And let's see if we can, well, it's not going to be a very super noticeable, but you can see that's 0 and that's 1. It's very subtle, and that's 0 and this is 2 for the torso, and it just rotates it back, all right. So that's going to get the body to a much more natural pose. We have this nice arc going through there. There's what's called a line of action that goes an arc, and this creates a C arc between the leg. And in case people don't know, I actually have a background in animation, so this is just giving you a quick rundown of how animation works. You create a counter C when you're doing a walk. All right, so there's our first thing. All right, so now we're not going to do the stride yet. We've got this. What we need to do is reverse what we've just done for the other direction. So we're not going to actually move the body. We're going to keep it right here in this position, but we're going to move. We're going to set this so that our move frames are 12 frames. We're going to do this in increments of 12 because the whole animation is going to be 24 frames. We want a total of 24 frames. We want the halfway point 12 to be 12 frames away. So we're going to hit 12 frames forward. And as we can see, we're basically going to be setting up the same things. We can set keys for everything here. We'll just set a key, all dimensions, set a key. We should probably put some keys on the thighs. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm going to go back to the beginning and set a key on that and set a key here as well. And then we'll go back forward so we can set a key on that, set a key here, set a key here, set a key in all dimensions. Let's go back to the right leg, set a key here, set a key here, and set a key here. All right, so all of that is set. And just because that will allow us to work from there, but because we know we're returning to that point, to the same place we started, we also want to go to the end. And well, because we know it's going to be the exact same thing, I'm going to, now that we've already set it up, I'm also going to counter animate it back at the end. So we've gone ahead to frame 25 and we can just set keys again. Whoops, whoa, or just, oh boy. All right, we're going to set a key. We got to go back in time. Set a key. Set a key. I accidentally deleted all the animation. So we're back at frame 25. Set a key for all dimensions. Set a key. Set a key. Set a key. Set a key. Set a key all dimensions. Go to the left leg. Set a key all dimensions. Oh, you know what we didn't do is the arms. Set a key. Set a key all the dimensions. We'll set a key here. Set a key here. Set a key here. Set a key here. And set a key here. Now we're going to go, let's go 12 frames back. Set a key. Set a key. Set a key. Left arm, set a key. And set a key. Alright, we've set 3 keyframes, all right, and it's not actually reflecting it in our node graph, but that's okay. If we look at the dope sheet and we were to zoom out or zoom in this case, actually, we can see we have all our keyframes. And by the way, let's look at this at this point. You'll notice that the reason I told you we needed to name all these bits, well, here's why. If we hadn't named these what we named them, they wouldn't show up here or in our curve editor. We can select each individual thing, and we're going to ultimately be going back and adjusting things and setting things, and we can retime stuff in the dope sheet. Don't worry about your keyframes not showing up here. Natron doesn't always give you blue marks in your timeline, but it's okay. As long as we can see it in the dope sheet and we can see it in the curve editor, we have all we need to do. All right, so don't worry too much. The only problem that it creates is it doesn't know these move keyframe forward and back don't always function. As you can see, when I hit move keyframe forward, it's not working in here. That's an unfortunate bug, but that's all right. We don't need it. We could always look at this and tell where our timeline is by scrubbing with this. All right. Anyway. Back to our animation. We're on frame 13, which is the halfway point. So what are we going to do here? We're reversing the things. Well, let's start with the arms. All right, this is the left arm started at 20 and the right arm was at -15. Well, we're going to just reverse this. Let's set this one to 20 and the other one to -15, -15, and for the left arm, because that was the arm was moved forward for the swing, we want to actually move it back to 0 because it's not really seen, but we want to do this because as it's moving forward in time, swinging back and forth, it's actually going to create an archy movement in the background, and we will notice it as it eases in and eases out at the other end of its extreme. All right. We're going to go to the right arm, and we've already set this up. It's 20. You know what? I don't think this arm looks like it's far enough forward, whereas the other one looked fine. I think we're going to take this a little bit further. Let's take this out to, I'm fine with wait a minute. We haven't included all right, before we do take this too much further, let's take it out to 25. And now we need to do the elbow. So as we know that we want to bring the elbow out. This side, instead of our elbow working off of rotation, we're doing this one with warp field deformation. And as we know, all we have to do is bring this out. Now I think that's way too much. Way too much. So we're going to actually bring it back. I think I want to get it. We don't need it more than 4 or 5. I think, yeah, we'll put it at 5. All right. So obviously, if we have it at 5, we have the elbow at 0. All right. So that means that halfway back, we need to put an arc into this. So this is our first thing. We're going to just do that right now. We're going to change our keyframes from, as you know, let's just see what this is doing. All right. When we look at the arm, let's just back it up and hit play. And we'll look at that arm for a second. And while it is swinging and so forth, it's actually, there's a little bit of an arc, but these fingers are actually not arcing as much as I would prefer. So I want it when it gets to the halfway mark of the halfway point in its arc, which is going to be 6 frames in. All right, so I'm going to change this to 6 frames. I'm going to hit forward. This is what's called the passing pose, and I'll get into what the passing pose is about in a little bit, but that's frame 7 is what we're going to call the passing pose. At the passing pose, just for the moment, because you know what, we'll deal with the passing pose when we get to it. We'll go ahead 6 more frames back to the thing. We'll deal with that when we do the rest of it. We'll get everything else set up first. All right, what else happens here at this frame? Frame 12. Frame 12, we are reversing the legs. So let's go over to our right leg and our left leg. We first need to look at our translations. We said that our right leg has, let's see, our right leg started off at negative, let's put that back to frame 13. Our right leg started off in the front, so that means it's moving back, which means it's the leg that is driving the movement. In other words, it's the leg that's going to be planted on the ground. So in this situation, what we need to do is we need to say, okay, it's going to be at the end of the leg, it's going to shift back to the toe. So where its toe is going to dictate where the body position is going to be. So let's first try and look at our left leg. Our left leg was set to -20. Let's see what happens if we go to our right leg and set that to -20 for the time being, -20. And see what happens. All right, we obviously need to rotate our leg. Let's see, we had -30, so let's set it to, well, -30. See where that looks. Whoops. That's for the foot. All right, that's fine. Let's go back to the left leg. Its calf was rotated to -23. Let's take it from +21. Well, actually, let's do the other legs as well. So we moved from, oh foo, I didn't memorize what it was. So we were 23 for the right leg. So if we go forward, oops. Oh, wait a minute, is that right? Yes, 23 forward twice. Let's change this back to 12 so that we're moving backwards and forwards exacting increments. All right, we go back 12. We see that the right leg was set to 23. If we go forward, let's go to the left leg for the moment and just set that from -20 to +23, which moves it there. Again, back to the beginning. Let's look at the right leg. So the feet were basically reversed. So instead of it being -30 here, it's going to be 30 here for the right leg. Is that correct? Nope, nope, nope. Right leg was -30 here. And the left leg is 30. So we're going to just set that to 30. There we go. But it's not, this leg's obviously not planted because it's too high. We'll figure that out in a minute. We'll calculate these because that's the part that's probably going to be the most different. All right, we need to set up the calf rotations. Which is going to set up the rotation for the rest of the leg. The left leg is set to -23, which would have been what the right leg's going to be, and the right leg's +21. So okay, so -23 and +21. All right, let's set this to -23 for right now. And this one to +21, just to get it into where we think they might be. All right, now again, the front leg is driving this movement, so we're going to hide the left leg this time. So we're going to remove that leg, look at this, and figure out, is this the correct positioning? Am I okay with this? Well, first thing I can tell you is no, I'm not. The right leg, the toe is below. This is our right leg floor. Our toe is below the line. So we actually need to raise our foot or our entire leg higher up. So let's actually just take it one whole unit. What's going on? I'm doing the wrong leg. All right. We want to do the right leg. Aha, this should be 14 according to that. Whoa, not 144, 14. There we go. That's too hard for this leg. Let's just start bringing it down. Let's zoom in a little bit. I think I'm gonna, because it's such a small point, I'm gonna just drop it down to make sure that actually reads. I think that's going to read better. So we're gonna make it +9 for that leg. That sets up where our torso is going to be. I think in this case, we don't really want to, all right, we're gonna, in this case, so a rotation for our torso, or for our pelvis, was positive, or our waist, excuse me, was +3. This now, because the leg has moved backwards, we need to counter rotate this in the opposite direction, because now the waist is leaning in the opposite direction. So we're going to actually take this and change it to from 3. We're going to just put a -3 here just to look at that. And we'll just change this. We'll just do the opposites for right now, for the entire thing, and just look at how that looks and see if that's enough. Honestly, I don't think that's enough. I think we need to... I want this to be a little more evident that his hip has rotated. So I'm going to just take that a little further back. We're going to take it to... There we go. We can see a little bit of this hip point. It's looking like there's a slight forward incline to the hip, which helps define that the rear leg has moved backwards. All right. So by doing that, all right, we're going to keep again the height at 2, but you know what? I might actually lower that waist a little bit. We'll see. We might lower that more because I'm thinking about this. Well, we'll see. We'll see. All right. So again, we have to counter rotate. So this should go. The vast majority of this should be handled by the body, and then only a little bit should be handled by the head, because your body, in all honesty, the reason you do the vast majority of the movement with the counter movement with the body is that you have the entire spine would be arcing back if there were more points in the spine, but we don't have that, so we're just working with what we have. So we're counter rotating the majority of the movement with this spine. If we had broken this somewhere in the midpoint, we would have rotated it 2 and 2 as opposed to, you know, an entire 4. But we still would this only counts about a fifth of the entire. The neck only counts about a fifth of the entire length of the torso, even though the head is huge. It only counts for about a fifth of what we're actually of the rotation amount. So we only want to counter rotate that by that much. All right. We'll keep it there. Don't worry about the warning. That's it's not going to affect anything. We may actually drop this pelvis down, and I'm just realizing we should have probably done the rear leg or the front leg first, because this leg's actually harder to... I realized when I was doing this that the front leg has less to work with for lining the lineup, and I really want this to be touching here. And I'm also realizing that the passing pose is the high point, not the stride. Right now we're at the maximum extension, which means the body's actually at its lowest point, not its highest point. And we've currently set it to the highest point, and I set it to the highest point because I used the rear leg to sort of dictate what it was going to be. Well, we're going to readjust it. We'll fix it, and it's just going to be minor, but we're going to drop this down. I think -1, maybe let's try -2 just to be... Actually, I like -2. That lines up very nicely right there. We're going to keep it -2. All right. And I'm perfectly happy with how that's looking. That's perfectly fine. The leg is looking fine there. We're going to call that perfect. All right. With that, saves us from having to animate a whole lot else. Now we need to connect the other leg in and fix it. And that is the A input. So A, let's disconnect the front input. Oh boy, we've got a lot to do here. But first thing we need to do is obviously lower the leg so that it's down further. So that was the other leg. I'm sorry, that's the left leg, not the right leg. Make sure you get the right leg, or the correct leg, not the right leg, the correct leg. We're going to lower this down. All right. There, my heel is touching. It looks good. I'm happy with the plant position. Now that I've got it planted, I'm going to rotate this back. Now, we've got a lot of leg here to deal with for the counter rotation. I'm perfectly happy with where its forward position is at this point. So what we're going to do is just rotate this calf back until it looks better. Let's see. We're going to bring it back. Actually, that's not too bad right there, but I think it's a little too far forward. I don't like it that much, but I don't also want this bit here. It's okay to have a little bit of overhang from that. Remember, the pant leg is going to crease around the leg a little bit, so it's not a problem having it here. So a little bit of a crease isn't going to be a problem. 27, let's take a look at 28. That actually doesn't look bad. Or 26, excuse me. That doesn't look bad either. I'm going to leave it at 27. Oh, no, that's just too much. I didn't like it. I don't want it to look like he's running. I want it to look very casual. 20, I like 26. 26 gives it a very shallow angle. For that, we've got the heel planted. Everything looks good. We're just going to call it. You can adjust it as you want. I'm perfectly fine with that. So there we go. We've set that up. So this being -2, this means that I've got to go back and adjust that. The other ones, the down point and the other to be -2 as well. So we're going to go -2 here and go all the way forward to frame 25 and set that to -2 for the waist position. And you can see that's changed things a bit. So we're actually going to have to adjust these. So we'll go back to the first frame. Oh, I'm sorry. This just adds to the complexity. This is called fixing it afterwards because I made a boo-boo at the beginning. Oh well, let's hide. All right, we're gonna say I'm gonna disconnect the front leg first, get that rear leg connected up so that it looks all right. Let's see, left. We're on the left leg, making sure that's the rear leg, left leg. Rotation 23. It can rotate a little bit further forward. We wanted about 24. That's fine. All right, that's where we're going to be. So it's going to be -24. It's at the proper height, which means we're going to go forward twice and set that also from -23 to -24. There, and that's going to fix that. That's all we had to do is to do that. We can hit the back arrow to go all the way back to the first frame. Now we're going to set up the other leg, which is should be A2. So we're going to connect that up. Let's disconnect A just to take a look. See if we can go back to the right leg. Just check the rotation. All we're doing is rotation. The heel, remember the foot is already planted. We're happy with our stride distances. Right now, it's all about seeing if we can get just the rotation to look a little smoother. Actually, I think it does look better if we I actually like that better. I think that transition is looking a lot better than it did the other way. That's looking a lot more like a pant leg coming out. That's great. I like it. So it's 23 as opposed to what it was before. So we're going to reconnect that. We're going to hit the forward 12 frames twice, 1, 2, and we're going to set this from 21 to 23 for the rotation, and there we go. We're back to the beginning. So now we've set that correctly. Let's take a look at did we do the arms already? Let's go back. Yes, we have. All right, let's take a look at what we've got here. When we hit play, let's back it up a little bit. When we hit play, we get wound up with this. And it's looking, we're getting something that looks like a walk. All right, it's looking like a very static walk, and we have a real problem here. All right, so what's the problem? The problem is actually we just happened to land at what's called the passing pose, which is halfway between the two poses, between the two things that we did, halfway between frame 13, which was the end of the stride, or one stride, and the first frame, which was frame 1, is the midpoint. That is when the leg is going, the body is going to be at its highest point, and that's where we're going to set up our next thing. Once we do that, we're going to for both directions, we're going to then we're going to do everything after. We'll fix the or go back and adjust some curves, and then once we've adjusted the curves for the entire body to get them so that it's all working smooth, then we're going to do what's cool. We're going to go in and add additional frames to fix things. So let's where are we at? Oh my goodness, we're running out of time. This is going super duper slow. All right, so here's the thing. The good thing about the passing pose is, guess what? It's 0. Everything's 0 on a passing pose. So all we got to do is 0 everything out. So let's 0 this. Let's don't remove, but select it all. Control A, select that, hit 0. Let's set a keyframe here, and let's just bring this from Y -2 to 0 for the moment. Again, set the key here, put this to 0. For our position here, actually, do we want this to be 0? Yes, we do. We want this to be 0 as well. 0 out everything. We're going to 0 out our leg position. We're going to 0 out our cap rotation. And we're going to 0 out our foot rotation. And we're not going to do it for the other leg. The other leg we do not do this on, by the way. Because the other leg's is actually in what's called the passing pose. Alright, and that's the front leg, or the leg that's driving the movement. Alright, let me explain what that means. I gotta just so we're aware what's going on here. As we can see, the forward leg is the leg that is moving from the front towards the back. That is the driving leg. That is the leg that is touching the ground. So that is the leg that is going to be zeroed out at the passing pose. This is the 0 point. This is frame 7. So that means this leg gets zeroed out completely. And we'll set a key, all dimensions there. So this is zeroed out. Now the rear leg is going to be bent because it is passing this leg in the background. And the foreground leg is going to do the same thing, but when we go in the opposite direction. We're not going to deal with that until we get everything else done. All right, so what else is happening here? This is also the midpoint for the arms. Now, the arms themselves, because they're in the midpoint, they don't have to, halfway through into passing pose, they should be hitting the midpoint of their swing. So here the arm, or the front arm, is going to be at its maximum. This is the right arm. It's going to be at its maximum scale. Everything else is fine, but its scale needs to be longer because it is arcing, and that elbow bone is not actually arcing yet. And that is what the purpose of this elbow scale is. So we want to just bring this up not very far. Let's try 2. And we're going to go, because of that, what we want to do, I just want to go ahead 12 frames and bring it up 0.2. It's not a very big amount. And I want to go to the end, make sure that's there, go back, 25, 49. All right. So let's just look at that arm, what it's doing now. So it's got a little bit of an arc. I don't know if you see it. It just makes it look like the arm is dipping down a wee bit as it's going. Now that's odd. I want to go back to that first frame. It's looking a little... You know what? I think... I'm just looking at this. I think I may actually bring this back a little bit more. I don't like how far forward this is looking at this point. I think it's... You know what? I'm not going to do that. We're just going to leave it be. But I might actually... No, I think I want this to be a little more vertical, a little less moved. I'm going to take it from 0.34 to 0.3 just because... Whoops, not 0. I just want to put it to 0.3. Yeah, I like that better as our passing pose. That just makes the arm look a little more straight up and down, which is more in line with this. It's just, I think it's going to look better overall. Actually, no. I'll take it back. I'll take it back. I'm going to remove this key. Remove that key. Don't do that. And the reason is actually the arms drive the movement, so they have to be a little further ahead. This is actually the passing pose for the arm, which I'm happy with. That's where I was going to have it before, which is almost 3, which is great. Now, I'll get into that. That's called secondary animation, and we'll get into that in a wee bit. All right, we've got that. We're going to leave it be. We're going to go, that's a passing pose for that. We're going to do the rear leg at this point. All right, so we need to, for the moment, we need to disconnect the right leg, which is the front leg, and deal with this rear leg. The rear leg is going to be passing. So that means we need to do something a lot more complicated with it. We did move the pelvis up, right? Just want to make sure of something. I want to see something. I think we're at the passing pose. Hold on 1 second. Is that passing pose? I just want to see something. Is the Y go? Can it go up? Oh yeah. I'm going to take the Y up 1 more unit. Can we go up 2 more units? 3 more units? 4 more units? Nope, 4 is too much. Why did I not do the passing? Uh-oh. Wait a minute. Hold the phone. Did I accidentally move this up? No, those are -2. Alright. So, back there. Back here. Alright. The pelvis here needs to be higher because the leg is at its full extension. This needs to be as high as it can possibly go. Alright? Because the body, when in the passing pose, your body, your leg, your passing leg, the leg that's straight, is going to be pushing your body up as high as it possibly can without breaking, and while keeping the foot planted so that the other leg has room to swing underneath it. It's going to be swinging, and the body tries to do this with as little effort as possible. So the key thing we want to do here, because this is the driving leg, we're raising this pelvis up as high as we can without breaking this line. All right, which happens to be 4. It looks like we can see it's touching right there. So that is our passing pose for the waist, and that's going to make the body move up, and so that the rear leg can swing under. And I just want to make sure that rear leg, I'm going to just double check. Yes, this leg is looking fine here. Actually, you know what? I'm going to drop it 1 notch because I don't like, there's a slightly soft pixel there I don't like on the butt. Right there. That's just because it's a bad design thing. That's fine. I like it better there. It makes it look a little more solid. I'd rather have it a little more solid for that one. Alright, we'll keep it at 3. So just remember that. Alright, now we're going to disconnect A2, which is the right leg, and look at that back leg, and start working on it. Now, obviously, the thigh is connected pretty well at this point, honestly. But we actually need to swing the leg so that it's in a passing pose. So what does that mean? Well, that means that the foot itself, this foot, is not going to be swinging towards the front yet. It's going to be trying to remain. It's just pushed off of from the rear. So it's going to have energy. It's going to have pushed. And so it's going to actually flex further back. So what we want to do is, oh good, we have a keyframe here. This is going to make our lives easier. We're going to go back to frame 1 here. And we're going to look at this foot rotation, and it's set to -30. And it's going to, when it gets to frame 7, and I just hit the next keyframe, which is frame 7, here, the foot rotation is not going to be at 11. It's going to be further back than that. So if it was -30, we're going to say like we're going to take it up another 20 we'll try. So if it was -30, we'll do -50, all right, which is going to make it look like it's broken. That might even be not enough, but it looks broken at this point because we haven't rotated the calf, and the calf is going to be even further forward, which is going to put it at like -80, I think it's going to be. All right, that might be a bit much. Let's bring it back, bring it back, bring it back, right around. Huh. Right about there's where we want it. So 50, that's interesting. All right, maybe 60, 70. That's weird. This is looking a little off to me, but that's fine. It's all right. We can, we have room to play. We'll keep it at 50 for right now. And what we need to do now, and this is the reason we animated and keyframed the thigh, is because, we didn't actually keyframe the thigh. We need to go back to the beginning, and we need to set a keyframe on the thigh rotation, and we need to go forward, set a keyframe here, and go to the last frame, set a keyframe here, and then we're going to go back a keyframe, well, we're not going to set a keyframe there yet. We're going to go back, set a keyframe here, and we'll set a keyframe here, all dimensions for the position. We're not going to actually translate it. We want to rotate it. I actually think we could probably, you know what? We can remove all the animation to the thigh position. We don't need it. We're going to remove all animation for that. We don't need it. We're not going to need it. We're not going to be repositioning it. We're going to be rotating it. It's fun. And we're going to do the same thing to the other one, but we need to, we should do that while we can. Set a key. All right, we're going to go back to the beginning. Set a key. Sorry. Better do it while we think about it. Set a key. Set a key. Move back 7 frames. Set a key here. Set a key. We move back to frame 7. There we go. All right, we're back here to the beginning. All right, so we want to go back to the left leg. This is the rear leg, right? All right, so before we, all right, here's the thing. This is the rear leg. We have yet to, on the passing pose, we're on frame 7, passing pose. We haven't moved the leg up. This is the rear leg. So the first thing we need to do is, right now, the foot is dragging through the rear plane. So we're going to set a key, all dimensions here, and we're going to remove this. We're going to change this to a nice even number like 8. And we're going to move it up, and we're going to just keep moving it up until such a time as that is barely, we want it slightly above. All right, 20, maybe a little bit less. 19. I'm happy with 19. All right, for right now. I actually think this is way too high. By the time we bend the knee back, the right thigh backwards to fix this, oops, we're going to have a problem where it's not going to be able to align with this. And we do not, by the way, we're not going to be adjusting this position here. In fact, we can remove this particular key for the central point of the leg translation. We only want to deal with the vertical translation on the passing pose. All right. This leg, everything, connecting this up is all going to be done by adjusting the rotations of these two pivots and the foot. All right. And then adjusting the others as needed. All right, so let's see what happens here. All right, we're going to bring this back, or at least in theory it should. We might do this. I might make a lie out of myself. This is the hip. This is going to be touching there. That is where the leg is touching. This is, again, very high. We've brought the leg up 110 degrees. That's looking pretty high. I really feel like this foot isn't as far back in this driving. So I'm going to actually rotate this a smidge more. Let's see if we can push this a bit more. I like that at about 80. Which obviously is breaking this pant leg. Let's see if that's going to matter. I think we can get away with it because it's hidden. This actually might look pretty decent. And I'll explain why in a minute. Or it should be where it's called a hidden. No, it's not going to look good. All right, let's see if we. Let's see. We need to. All right, that's where it says the passing pose is. We're going to leave it at 50. That is, according to everything, that's the passing pose. I don't like it. The reason is that your foot should never be in the passing pose. If anything, the foot should be actually behind it. So I actually am going to be adjusting the horizontal position. So we are going to set that back to -80, -80. Why? Because, whoops. -80 for the rotation, and we're going to actually just pull this back in increments until such a time as just the tip of that pant leg, I want a little bit of that pant leg poking out. I can live with that. That way it looks like the leg is behind it. All right. So we can readjust this a little bit more. Let's turn this down. I can... No, it needs to look like it's higher. All right. We want it to be... I'm going to go with 70. I'm going to lower this to 100. I think I can live with that for my passing pose. All right. We may change this in for the other leg, but for right now, this is what we're going to be using for our passing pose for that rear leg. It should look like that leg is behind it passing. All right, let's just look at how that looks for the moment. Let's just animate it. It's going up. It's passing. All right, we have a problem here. Let's go back a few frames. Right here, we can see the toe is pushing through the foot is pushing through, the toe is pushing through the floor. We can't have that actually happen. So that means we need to raise the foot further on our passing pose. So, whoops, let's go back to our passing pose. And let's just raise this up a few more degrees. We may take it up so that it's up, so that it's closer to there. Let's go forward those 2 frames. There we go. Now that foot is looking like it's passing above. In fact, I might say it's a little too high at this point. All right, let's go back 2 frames. Oops, no, let's go back 2 frames. We can lower it a smidge. 28. Let's take it down to 26. 1, 2. That's all right. We can see it's being blocked. Let's hide that guide, that overlay. Now we can see it's barely. We want it so that it's barely clearing that when it swings through its entire arc, because your body's going to make the is going to try and do this with as little effort as possible. And so your toes, this is why people, when they go over things, little kids particularly, trip, because their toe, haven't mastered keeping their toe just above, hovering just above. We're actually really good at this, keeping it just above that ground line. All right. So their toes catch and they trip over and they fall on their face. And it's unfortunate and it hurts like a bugger, but that's the thing we want to do. All right. So we've got our passing pose. What the heck? Oh, all right. We've got back to the beginning. All right. So there's our passing pose. Huh. This is going to be an interesting passing pose. Well, we shall see. This looks good at this point for the most part. We do have some problems here. I don't know if you're noticing it, but during our passing pose right here, our thigh is practically in our chest. We're going to have to obviously lower that in compensation, but we're not going to deal with this yet. Again, that's the next part of this. We may only do the 2 passing poses before we end this this video for the day, and I might actually make this finish this up on Saturday, because unlike the other ones, I feel like animation is one of those things we really want to keep on and make sure we get right. It's important, in my opinion. All right, so we're going to call this passing pose. I'm perfectly fine with where this passing pose is. So we need to do the other passing pose. So we're going to hit the 12 frames ahead, which is the opposite side. And now the left leg should be the one that is in the passing pose. So it should be down on the ground. So again, we need to zero out the neck. We need to zero out the torso. We need to zero out the waist translate. Here we want to keep that, but we want to keep that. We're going to be moving this up, this one up. We're going to zero out the rotation. This is probably going to be +3, but we'll just set it to 3 for right now. Just because we're assuming that's going to be right, but it might not be. It might go down or up. We'll set a key here because we'll set a key on all of these. See, it set a key. Oh, wait. We're zeroing these. This is the left. 0, 0, 0, 0. The right leg is the one that's going to be in passing. This is where we're actually going to be seeing how that motivation works and everything. And we may actually play with some things. All right, so the left leg, that is odd. That is not where this looks off. This looks one frame too high, which is very, very weird considering we set this up ahead of time so that 0 should have been our passing pose. And we're not actually touching that pelvis either. Oh, this is not good. This is very not good. Well, that's all right. We can, we're gonna fix it. We're gonna just pull it down, fix it. Which means this pelvis has to come down. Oh, yes, the pelvis was already... So we're going to take it down. It was already up too high. So we're going to set it to 0. All right, so this is our passing pose. Obviously, 0 there. 0 for that is the passing pose. I'm fine by that as the passing pose there. Our foot is planted, even though it's -1 when it should be 0. We're not going to complain. We're just going to accept that that's the way it is. And look at what happens as we let's look at this. Let's make sure our body is transitioning correctly from frame 13 to our passing pose. Our heel is touching, our heel is going down, so ultimately our leg is going to be going up a bit, which means the body is going to translate up. But it is not going to be transferred. We want it to be back down here at this point. So let's see. Oh wait, this is fine. This is fine. What am I thinking? I know why it looks a little odd because the foot. It's fine. We're good to go. The reason it's sliding into here is because the toe is where we have it lined up, not the bottom of the foot, not the bottom of this part. We shall see. This might actually, this might look a little weird. We're not going to worry too much. All right, we're going to keep it here for right now. Let's focus on this passing pose for the other one, for the other leg. All right, so we go back 12 frames and we look at it. So we had let's start off with our rotations. Our foot was at -80, 70, and 100. Or -80, -70, and 100 were our rotations for the leg to get it into the passing pose. So we're going to go to the other leg and try that as our default to this leg, the right leg. So we said it was, again, I think this was -50, was it? Bump. Yes, I think it was -50. This was -70, -70, and this was -100. Oops, no, it was 100. Alright, which obviously looks weird. Plus, we have an arm blocking our way at this point, so we're going to disconnect our arm till we get, that's the right arm. Obviously, it was blocking the way. And we can disconnect, just so everybody's aware, we can disconnect both the right arm and the left leg, because the left leg is A, which goes above it. So though this is the left leg is this one, and this is the arm, which is A4. So we can disconnect those two simultaneously so we can get this leg positioned correctly. All right, so let's first of all, I just want to make sure of our height. So we said that the left leg was at -80. I'm sorry for the passing pose. All right, so we're going to go forward. The foot, this foot should be at passing pose -80 for the right leg. So we're going to say negative 80. That's where it was. Hey, that actually looks pretty good now. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Now all we've got to do, I can live with that for a passing pose, other than the fact that we need to now adjust it so that it actually touches the body. It actually looks like we could potentially get away with a slightly lower rotation on this leg as long as it transitions forward, the toe doesn't go through, and it does. All right, so we're gonna, whoops, I didn't want to do that. We want to go back a few frames. We're going to raise this up. We're going to set this to a nice solid 9, just as opposed to 7, just to raise it up a little bit. And let's try rotating not the foot back. We're going to rotate the calf back a little bit to 60, which means that the rear foot is going to be, we have a break here, which means that's not quite good. Let's rotate this back in 10-degree increments. 90. We need to make sure that this the leg is actually able to touch it while keeping this touching. This foot needs to barely scrape across the ground. So we need to make sure, first thing we need to do is make sure that when as it progresses forward, that leg is not going through. So we're still too high, or too low, I mean. So we're going to just up this one notch at a time and just scrub through it until it goes back, barely scrubs through. All right, 10. We're going to go up 11. Nope. Back 2. Whoops. 12. All right. Boom, boom. Nope, we're going to do 13. Man, I think we're actually going to take it up to like 14. All right, we're going to go up to 14. 14. Bam. Scraping through. 14. And remember, we can't, whoops, that's the passing pose. I'll put the wrong thing. We're at 19. Or 14, we want to go up. We're going to just take it up in 2s at this point, because I think we're going to have to go more than that. Oh boy, that's really cutting it close. You know what? I'm going to... And I'm looking at that. We're gonna probably move it forward a bit more too. All right. Well, we're gonna call it there for right now. What we're gonna do is adjust the others and see if we can fix this. So obviously we need to. I'm actually happy with where that foot is. I want to look at the foot rotation. That's where it started. And that's where it ends. All right, we need to, let's try it. Oops, that's not where it ends. It goes one more frame. There we go. Now we're at the keyframe. Let's look at what happens if we raise this up to 70. How far back can we get that before it breaks? Right about, I want to say 66. Looks like it's as far back as we can go. Let's increase this leg. So we got to keep it. We've got to keep this at 90 at least in order to get the rear or get this leg up, which means we need to possibly bring this back a little bit in rotation. I think I like that there, which means for now I think we're going to actually bring the foot back. I'd rather bring the foot back in rotation and take a look. All right, our leg is not, man, our leg is too low. We're going to keep it at 70 for a foot rotation. Let me just see if I like that. Bump. Whoops. What's going on there? What just happened? Oh, we don't have a keyframe. Why don't we have a keyframe? All right, I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna just, what the? All right, gonna go to the end. All right, we're gonna set this to 6 because for some reason our keyframes are not working. That's a passing pose. Back 6 frames. All right. So that's where this is where it's pushing off. All right, no, that's actually plenty for a push off energy. All right, I can live with that. As long as it's further forward, though. That's the only thing. We're going to have to check this and make sure that when it's doing its passing pose, that the foot is actually further forward. If we go back, see, here, I don't think this is why we animate. We can see that the foot is not actually pushing forward at that point. It's when the foot has left the ground. This is the last point. The foot is technically touching the ground, and it's still moving in a backward motion, which is not good. It should be moving in a forward motion at this point. We should have complete forward motion, so we're gonna have to actually pull that leg forward. So let's get back to frame 13. That's the last frame. So this here should be, the leg should be pushed forward. So again, we're going to pull this forward a little bit, which means actually we're going to rotate this back. Whoops, wrong one. We're going to rotate this from 50 down to 40. 7. We're going to rotate that back up to like about 50. Change this from 90 to 80. Maybe rotate it up until about 85. Oh, and we need to raise this even further up. Boom, boom, boom. 20. All right, let's see if we're scraping. We're scraping. How far off are we? 22. We want to be at what, 19? That's 3 frames. Let's change this to 3, right? Let me just make sure that's my scrape point. I just want to verify my scrape point, because that should not be scraping that. So we need to we're gonna have to keep this. All right, I'm going to raise this here just a little bit more, just to see where we're going to figure out where this needs to be to get off of the ground. So 20 is where that needs to be. Let's see if that's okay. See, that's going to change the entire thigh animation up there, but that's all right. We're going to keep it like that. I can live with that. Now, let's see, 21, 22. We're going to go back 3 frames. Here, we're going to push this forward just a smidge. Let's go back to -3. We're going to go forward 2, 3 to 0. I just want to make sure that at our passing pose, let's see, we should be, we're 6 frames ahead of it. So let's go back 6 frames. I just want to go back 6 frames forward. Are we in? Yes, I can live with that. We need to be at least the same position. This is the key here is that it looks like it's moving vertically up. And we can double check this with actually by, I think if we hide our onion skin, we might actually be able to see this. This might not show up with the white background, so I'm going to temporarily disable. Oh, it's not going to do that. We're going to disable the background. There we go. We can see our frames here. So we can see that actually, let's hide the floor. We already know the floor is there. I'm sorry, this is going to be the last bit for the day. We can see that it's moving more or less vertically here. Our frames are showing that it's moving in a vertical fashion, and that's what we want for that passing pose. And I know this has been a very long episode because of the fact that we've been doing this, and I'm going to save this. We're going to do a new project version here, and we're going to call it here. We're not going to worry about anything else. I don't think we have the passing pose quite lined up. Yeah, we don't have the hip. Well, we're going to adjust this hip a little bit more in at the beginning of the next episode. All right. Actually, let's disable the. Let's just disable. Oh, I take it back. Well, you know what? Let's try and fix that. Why do I have a? Thought I removed that animation on the side. Oh, that's weird. Anyway, if I rotate, that's 85. Let's just pull this back until. You know what? I'm perfectly fine with an 85, 86 area. That's perfectly. Well, let's just set that back to 86. That's where it was. I am actually happy with that. I can deal with that. If we disable or enable it, it's a little bit weird in there. It's because it's anti-aliasing it due to motion. Let's just take that back. You know what? 86. Let's try rotating this back a smidge more. Then we've... Oh, bugger. Oh. I'm sorry, I fibbed. I'm going to counter this just a smidge. I want this to look good, but I don't want to... I want the entire thing. So I'm going to call that our passing pose. I think that ought to give us a similar thing. Let's disable this and look at the motion here, and we can see with the onion skin, if we need to increase the onion skin, by the way, we can tell it that the backward opacity is either higher. I think it's higher. Yes, so it's more visible, so that we can see the motion. We can see this motion right here is perfectly good, and we can also increase. I think we can change the frame. Yeah, let's change the frame interval to 2 frames, and decrease this a little bit so that we can see it a little bit better. What we're looking at is we're trying to see where those frames line up, and I think 1 was fine. Yeah, I think I'm good with this. Let's reset that to default. I'm good with it. That's looking for the animation, and we can see the arc moving through there. So it's coming up in the key is that this is coming up in an almost vertical movement and moving slightly forward, so that what it looks like is the energy of the push off is actually the tip of the toe, which is pushing off, is staying consistent with the ground, but the heel is moving forward. All right, that is what we were trying to do there, and it's a tricky part. That's the hardest part of that entire motion there, and the biggest point we need to sell if this is going to look like it's actually producing energy to propel the character forward. All right, now that we've got that done, I'm calling it. I know this was a very long episode, right, let's do a new project version, just to make sure that we're starting off. And when we do this entire thing, we're going to finish this up. We're going to finish up the animation on Saturday, because I want to make sure this is done properly. And now that, oh, that's right, I don't have a controller, so I've got to go back to me. There we go. We're going to finish this up on Saturday. Thanks for tuning in and watching. Keep on Natron, and see you next time.